I've had clients who had health issues. Maybe they had a heart attack 3 years ago. Well, that totally wipes out a whole myriad of insurance companies because they don't want to deal with that. Other ones are experts with regard to cancer. Other ones are smoker versus non-smoker. So what I wind up doing is, because I deal with a company, an independent company that just totally runs all the numbers and all the insurance companies, and I give the information to them. It's really simple. I just say, okay, Mrs. Jones is 62 years old, and she's looking for, let's give her a quote for a 5, 10, 15, and 20-year term policy, because she doesn't want to buy one of those universal ones, and she's been a smoker for 20 years. So they'll run the numbers and go, okay, well, these companies are way out there, forget that, and these other ones would be better.
That's interesting. So if you're doing an evaluation like that, is there a difference between term policies? Is one term policy any different than the other than the amount of years that you have a level premium?
No, that's the other beauty of this thing. Either you're dead or you're not dead, right? Because term policies is really simple. It's money that you spend for insurance. It's not complicated.
Yeah, right? It seems so simple.
It really is, and again, that's why I really like this part of the business, because again, either you're dead or you're not dead, and it really comes down to price. Again, because what I said, except for a fraudulent situation, which really is hard, you don't really get too many fraudulent insurance companies out there, right?
Yeah.
And it's easy to check out to see how long they've been in business. As long as they exist, then you just go with the dirt cheapest one. And the only thing that gets a little bit squirrely is, again, what if you're a smoker? Mm-hmm. Or what if you are a cancer survivor? Then, the one company that gave you the cheapest quote, if you're in perfect health, might not give you give you the best quote for if you have health issues.
So what kind of, do they still send a doctor to your house? What kind of qualifications do you have to
exactly.
do for examination?
Okay. I'm glad you brought that up. You almost never want to go with a company where they say, oh, no exam necessary.
Yeah, I see that a lot.
Yeah, and the reason that what happens is you get thrown into a big pool with people who are unhealthy. So the only people who should do that are people who are uninsurable effectively. They're going to die in 6 months, and it's like, no exam necessary? Okay, sign me up.
So typically that's going to be a higher premium policy.
Absolutely, yeah. Now there are contestable periods like within 2 years. So if you said, gee, I don't have cancer, and then you buy a policy and 6 months later you die of cancer, they're not going to pay.
Well, I know that when I got my term policy a few years ago, they sent somebody out to the house, they drew my blood, they did blood pressure, they checked medical records and all that.
Yep.
And then after the exam was complete and they got the results back, that's when they gave me my premium quote.
Correct.
Because they rated me in a better category than they initially rated me just by filling out the questionnaire.
Absolutely. In fact, the problem I had was my dad died at age 53 of a heart attack.
Yeah, mine too.
Right, and that's one of the reasons you got rated, is because the hereditary type thing. Now, in my case, my dad smoked, didn't get any exercise, and bad diet and all that stuff, but I unfortunately don't get the benefit of going, hey, look at me, I'm healthy, and I have better habits. So again, it goes back to, each company is going to value you differently, and you absolutely want to go with one who, yes, it's a hassle to have them draw your blood, but they don't take out pints of blood. I mean, they take out, it's so innocuous. It's just,
and they do it at your house. It's not inconvenient.
It's very convenient at, home or office, whatever you want, and you fill out the questionnaire honestly. You tell them, ever had any broken bones? Okay, yeah, I broke my thumb, when I was 17. They're not gonna rate you on that.
Broken thumb.
But if you lie on it, though, if you lie on an application, they can go after you. So it's really best to just put all your cards out on the table.
Or not pay. If you die, could they go look back and say, hey, you didn't tell us that he had chest pains?
And that's happened where someone had said he was a non-smoker, and it turned out that he was a smoker, and so the widow went to the insurance company. They said, well, we're not going to pay, and the widow said, well, why don't I just pay the difference between what the smoker rate and the non-smoker rate, because then that would be effectively telling the truth. And they said no. And they went to court, and she lost. So it's better to just pay the correct amount, because
otherwise it's a waste.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is there a rule of thumb still on how much insurance one should carry?
That's a good question. The insurance company won't let you over-insure, and also you have to have an insurable interest. Well, yeah. I mean, think about it. You make $20,000 a year, and you want
$20 million
You want a
policy.
$10 million policy?
No, you can't do that. While you're wearing a suicide bomber jacket.
Right.
No, there are limits to
We're
that.
attending lots of Raider games.
Yeah, generally speaking, as a general rule of thumb, 10 times the amount of your income is fairly safe. But a lot of it's going to be premium driven,
Yeah.
right? I mean, if you just can't afford the premium, then you don't do it. I mean, but it's amazing how cheap this stuff really is, though. I mean, it's dirt cheap term insurance, and you want to get one. I would say that you really should get one for a good 10 to 15 years, because if you get one for 5 years, even though it's cheaper, it's amazing how fast it comes up. And then when you're 5 years older, suddenly you're a lot more surprised at how much the insurance is.
Especially the older you get, time goes by faster the older you get, I noticed.
Yeah. All right. So here's our second trivia question, and again, what's the topic? Unusual sports stories.
Unusual
Okay.
sports.
You guys will like this one.
Questions Brian won't know.
No, you might know this one. Okay.
Oh, okay.
In 1994, Tonya Harding was accused of hiring a hitman to take out the knee of her rival skater. Who was this rival skater? It's almost like Daytona 500, right?
Yeah, almost.
Okay, it's almost like NASCAR. And we will be right back.
I know that one.
You do
I
know
do
that
too.
one.
I actually
You
do
do?
know
You
well.
do know,
I
okay.
don't
I
know
was
how
hiding
long
my
it's been since
answer.
I've actually. Yeah, you have to hide your answer because I might copy off of it. But I think I actually know this one.
Kramer,
which
you
is
know the
unusual.
answer?
No, but what was the name of the hitman?
Oh,
I can see him.
Guido. Okay, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my co-host Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money and Brian Burke of Praxis Capital. When we cut to the second commercial break, we asked this trivia question, and again, the theme is unusual sports stories. In 1994, Tonya Harding was accused of hiring a hitman to take out the knee of her rival skater. Who was this rival skater? Now, this time it's not Joe Montana, but you do know the answer.
Well, I think it's Nancy Kerrigan.
It is Nancy Kerrigan. That
And
is
I didn't even
correct.
copy off of Mark's paper this time.
that's
I usually
my
have to
answer.
look over there.
Well, I
and
tell you,
writes it
it's
down.
pretty close to NASCAR, right?
Oh, yeah.
Skating.
Oh, is it? Oh, because they go in circles, right?
They go in circles. That's right. Okay. Mark, you had gone to an interesting conference. Tell us what's going on in some real estate.
Well, first let's talk about what's happening lately in real estate. Going back to the fourth quarter, there were an awful lot of long faces in the industry because sales were really down. The fourth quarter of 2011, in my opinion, may end up being the absolute trough in the real estate industry. And what I'm seeing is an awful lot of optimism in the market. In fact, I've been talking to a lot of real estate agents who are telling me that they've got an awful lot of more properties in contract right now than they had a month ago or several months ago or last year at this time.
But are they going to close, though?
Well, yeah, that's it. So the statistics for new contracts are up, and then this report just came out yesterday, in fact. It says Bay Area home sales rose last month being January, to the highest level for January in 5 years. Now, the downside of that, if you want to look at this as a downside, we could talk a little bit more about that, is it goes on to say that the median price paid for a home fell year over year for the 16th consecutive month.
And guys, we're going to cut to our commercial break, and we'll be right back. Welcome. You're listening to the Best of Investing on News Talk 910. This is the show where we present valuable information about real estate, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. For those of you listening for the first time, here's our format. A few guys sitting around a bar, talking business with you, the audience listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm pleased to have as my co-host Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, California's fastest growing private lender, and Lou Botmal, and today's trivia theme is Uncle on TV or in the movies. You'll understand when I get to the questions. Our website is bestofinvesting.com. You can email us questions at edward@bestofinvesting.com and listen for your questions on the air. We're also on television, Comcast 26 on Saturdays at noon and Sundays at 6 p.m. Now, today's guest is Dan Roberts, who is running for Congress. And although we're not a political show, we decided to have him on because he's going to discuss fiscal responsibility with us. Dan, welcome to the Best of Investing.
Thank you. Good to be here.
All right. Now, Lou, do you want to get in? You had some great questions you wanted to start getting in.
I told Dan before we started, I do work in the investment community, and there's a lot of things pending that need congressional approval or origination that I'm quite worried about, my client's quite worried about. So, Dan, I want to start off with, how can Congress restore confidence in the financial markets, and what's the first thing Congress should do to restore investor confidence?
Well, I've been working, by way of background, I'm on the FINRA Small Firms Advisory Board. I've been working for 5 years on regulatory reform with the Graham-Dodd Act and the Oxley Act, et cetera, trying to improve the markets. But you've got to begin, I think, where I begin, that is that these are private investments, are private contracts, so you got to respect that. I'm not sure that the Congress or the SC properly understands that.
Okay. Another quick question in regards to that. If you were elected, I want to ask this question, to Congress, what could you do to control the fiscal cliff that's pending, and what plan would you develop to get us through that period?
I think I begin with the point that what's going on now with the huge deficit, annual overspending, and the level of debt approaching 16 trillion and going to 20, I guess.
Yeah, what's a few trillion? Just wait till it hits a
Among friends.
quadrillion, then I'll be worried, right?
Here and there, then it's real money, as Dirksen used to say. But so let's recognize there's a generational theft going on. Let's call it what it is. And that is, it's spending today that are actually the unborn are going to have to pay, and that's not right. Morally corrupt, and so when I go back to Congress, I will try to force the House and to face that issue. Secondly, with the near zero, we haven't talked about this, but the near zero rate investment environment, that's the shift that is penalizing the seniors, including me. I'm a senior. Because we can't get really an adequate rate of return, and it hurts all pension funds. You talk about one issue, the elephant in the room, is that why the pension funds are underfunded, can't match their actuarial assumptions, is that they can't get a decent return on their investments
Yeah, but
to match what they need in the future.
But if you raise interest rates, though, how's that going to affect the business environment?
It has to go to a market rate. It'll eventually have to go back to a market risk-adjusted rate.
Well, and if you look back 20, 30 years, I mean, the average prime rate was 6%. And we've been hovering, what, at 3 for how long now?
Forget the prime. What does the prime really mean? That's what the banks established.
Yeah.
Let's look at the
Savings rates.
10-year treasury.
There you go.
Right.
10-year treasury.
1.7.
Yeah.
In fact, speaking of the banks, what I wanted to ask you is, what about the Glass-Steagall Act? First of all, explain that to people and then
sure.
how things kind of shifted.
Yeah, in the 30s, there was the rewrite by the SEC in about 38 forced the commercial banks to separate from the investment banks. So the huge risks that the investment banks take wouldn't be backed by the taxpayers, which is the situation today. So, I mean, I'd be a proponent of reinstating the Glass-Steagall Act to separate the investment banks from the commercial banks. The smartest people back there have been influenced by the banks. No surprise to this, that it's not possible to break them up and go back to where it should be. I think it should be. It should be
Is
reinstated.
that because of lobbying dollars, you think?
Surprise, surprise. The banks have more money than the people that I do, certainly.
Well, I know it's kind of strange that, years ago, you'd go into a bank and all they would offer is just CDs. And then lately, the last 20 years or something, you go in there and now they're offering, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, et cetera.
Yeah, REITs,
And then-
everything.
Everything, yeah. And the consumer, though, I think is still confused, even though you have to sign a whole bunch of paperwork stating, I know this is not a deposit, I know it's not FDIC insured, and yet people, I still think, I'm in a bank, it must be safe.
So we're talking with Dan Roberts, who's running for Congress, and the district or the seat that you're running for again, what's
The
that?
second congressional district, it's a 6-county seat. We're in Sonoma, Humboldt, Mendocino, Del Norte, Trinity.
And you're one of 2 people running, and as I understand, you're running as a Republican, but that's not what you would call yourself or you affiliate yourself. Is that correct?
No, I'm more of an independent reformer, so I come out of the Ross Perot. I was concerned 1974, right, when Ross ran, about the level of debt. So I'm concerned today as it was then, more concerned today.
All right, you have a couple more questions.
Yeah, no, I want to jump in this one real quick. Given your industry experience, and again, this is my business I'm in, I know you're in it as well, what changes need to happen right away in the next 2 years, I'd say, as a time frame? Because sometimes congressional races only measured in that vein, because because of the reelection process and who controls Congress. What can happen the next 2 years to, again, bring what we need as a country and pay down the debt at the same time? There's certain services we do need and certain things we don't need. I understand that point, but what changes can happen? And is it obtainable? Like Representative Ryan, the vice presidential candidate, is saying right now, well, we can do it all. We can control spending, not raise taxes, and be okay. I mean, are you in favor of that type of view, or what would you do?
If you look closer at Ryan's plan, he doesn't balance the budget for about 20 or 30 years. So that's not doable. That's not an answer. I would say roll back spending to '08 levels and then cut 1% a year. We can balance the budget in a matter of a few years. So as I say, there's a moral problem here, spending the unborn's money, which is not sustainable.
Well, a question for you: how much power for the congressional seat that you're running for will you have?
Oh, that's a good question.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's a
Thank
very
you
good.
thank you
I
very
bring
much.
that up on the road every time. I will sit in the majority in the House. How is that? I will actually have input. I will actually be on some good committees. If you have Democrat, if they give it to the Democrat, he's going to be what they call a backbencher. You know what that is, huh? They throw bombs from way far away with little impact.
The more you control, the more appointed you get. Let me ask you another question, going along with my line of thinking. America's lost its AA or AAA credit ratings. Now we're now AA, and given what you just discussed with us, the opportunity, as you mentioned, to pay down the debt, is that obtainable? Is it a real goal that we can see in our lifetimes? And what would it take to make that happen?
Well, the House blessed those folks that came in the